people would come to me, companies would come to me, governments would come and reach out to me, and they would say that, can I use your software to run our event, right? And again, I would give it to them sometimes, of course, sell them as a service or help them out, if they need.
Hey, Bootstrappers! Welcome to Bootstrap Stories, the podcast where founders, marketers, and thoughtful leaders share the most actionable tips on building a successful business. After meeting with hundreds of bootstrappers in the past years, I figured out that we all struggle to grow our businesses. But the truth is that most of us don't know where to ask for help or advice. That's why I decided to start this podcast, to give you all the keys to succeed at every stage of your business. All the tested strategies for solving your struggles and taking your business to a new level. No fluff, no bullshit, only a real talk between friends that help each other succeed.
Today, my guest for this episode is Muhammad Younas, founder and CEO at vFairs. Younas, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, G.
I'm super excited to ask you a lot of questions when it comes to your growth, what you've accomplished in a very short amount of time. So before we get started, can you maybe introduce yourself and give an introduction about your company and what you do at vFairs?
Sure. I'm the CEO and founder of vFairs. vFairs help companies run events of any kind, online, hybrid, or in person, and we help them achieve business results with stellar customer support. We started as a company who would help organizations primarily run online and digital events, but over the past one year, we have also pivoted to both hybrid and in-person events as well.
That's really interesting. And what's kind of your ARR today, annual recurring revenue or number of total clients?
So we are at a $30 million ARR as
Nice.
of now. We help over 2,000 plus companies at the moment with their events.
So you're focusing mainly, and by the way, that's like really impressive. So congrats. And you're focusing mainly on enterprise accounts?
Primarily on the mid-market and enterprise
Mid-market.
accounts. Yeah.
So what's typically like the average deal size and what you do?
So average deal size is roughly around 15,000 US dollars, between 15 to 20,000 US dollars. For mid-market is 15, for the enterprise is 20 plus, somewhere in between.
Nice. And how many employees?
We are 267 employees as of today.
That's impressive. You have the right number. For me, I'm always changing a little bit. And how fast was the growth since 2016? Was kind of like COVID helping you boost like the organization of events, or how exactly did it go?
Yeah. So when we started back in 2016, we were already growing 50% to 100% year on year from a small base all the way leading up to pandemic. So we were already a profitable company, growing company, company with a lot of happy employees and happy customers. When COVID came, that just, of course, like many other players, in the tech space, it gives us a huge boost. So we grew, 20 times over the next couple of years. We're already growing 50 to 100% year on year, and then the growth literally, we had a kind of a hockey stick growth over the last 2 years, primarily due to COVID. Yeah.
And that's true. Did you feel like after COVID, so kind of like we had, COVID is still present obviously, but less and less. Do you feel like it's impacting the growth, or do you feel like there is a huge shift in the market with more people working remote and more events being organized and held online?
Yeah. So I think what COVID helped us was to get just amazing growth that typically no company expect, right? No company expect to grow 1,000%, year on year, right? Do we feel that from this point onward we'll have the same kind of growth that we have had last couple of years? No, I think anyone in the tech space, would feel the same way. But do we feel that COVID has helped the market understand the benefits of online events, digital events, remote work? Again, we all know that now how most of the companies are not going to go back to to the same kind of work environment where everyone is going to the office. The same thing is true for events also, right? So, while many events will happen in person, which we also assist our customers with, a lot of the events just by nature have shifted to either virtual or hybrid moving forward, right? So we expect growth in the years to come. Maybe not the same kind of crazy growth that we were, that we got in the last 2 years, but a typical 30, 40, 50% growth that a typical SaaS company would expect. We believe that COVID has helped mature that market, by a lot.
And I'm curious because with such a growth, you probably had like tons of investors reaching out during that time. Like we saw, for example, like Hopin, which actually is not doing so well right now, but during like COVID got like crazy valuations, crazy multiples, etc. Was it like something? I'm sure like investor reach out. So what was your reasoning behind staying bootstrapped and keep growing that way?
Yeah, no. So I think I doubt that there is any known investor who would not have reached out to us. We at that time were very much focused on the delivery of our services that we would have already sold. We've had a very meaningful conversation with at least a dozen of them. I think the challenge that we always were facing, when we were talking with these investors, that first of all, we just never needed money. So while a lot of other companies, they run their companies where they're losing money every single month and they need that extra cash to inject into their business. We were never looking for the money just to run our businesses. We run business in a very unique way where our unit economics are pretty well. And the second thing was we are a very transparent company, and you will see that throughout the podcast. Like we just didn't know what will happen once the COVID would be over. And to an investor world, they want to hear that, oh, by the way, even when things will go back to normal, you might still have this, crazy growth, which we might still have, but no one can guarantee, right? So I think I'm not going to say much about Hopin on that part, but I think when you raise money with that kind of valuation, I just feel that it becomes very hard sometimes to justify those numbers, and we just wanted to be very transparent with whoever we were having a conversation with. So we didn't need any money. We wanted to have conversations with people who are there with us for the next 3 to 5 years to help us eventually achieve again our goal of going and doing an IPO over the next 5 years. And that's why we didn't raise any money, because we didn't need it, one, and at the same time we were not sure of what will happen after COVID, and we were very transparent about that.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with what you said regarding like valuations, where sometimes it's very difficult to justify the numbers, and we've seen a lot of example recently. I think like Fast also, like company raising I think $130 million and making like 50K MRR would just like had to fire like I don't know how many hundreds of employees. I think it's just like it's just a crazy time. And right now, I do feel like being profitable is something that is a superpower. So I'm also curious to know like how exactly like do you manage, like what metrics do you look at as a bootstrap entrepreneur? Because obviously for you, that you don't have like unlimited funds. So what are like the kind of key metrics you look at to know the health of your business on a monthly or weekly basis?
Sure. See, I will tell you a lot of those metrics that any typical SaaS company would monitor, including us. But if I have to pick up one as a start to begin with, like for us, that's really the NPS. Like for us, the only thing that matters in the bigger scheme of things is that what our customers feel about our services. What do they say about us, right? So if you will just ever look vFairs, on Google, if you will go and check us out on G2 or any of these social review sites, one thing that customers would swear upon is the great customer support that they get from vFairs, right? So they would say that not only within our industry, we are the pioneer of offering just stellar customer support, but in general across the tech industry, they would say that they haven't received as amazing customer support that they typically get from vFairs. So for me, again, most of my time is being spent on how to make sure that whatever we have sold, the customer in the end is typically happy. I often say that internally to our employees that we are in the tech industry, but I also want, again, our employees to know that we internally feel that we are also in the hospitality industry. Events is a very, very sensitive business. Our customers work for weeks, months for that one day, sometimes of an event, and that one day cannot go wrong. And leading up to that event, leading up to that 1, 2, 3 day of an event, I want to make sure that customers are enjoying their journey. It's like your wedding day. It cannot go wrong. It has to be the most memorable day of your life, in this case, of your work life. So NPS is the key for us internally in the company, and we are of the opinion that if our customers are happy, everything else, there will be ups and downs. It's like in any other business because of the markets out there, but we will eventually survive. As far as we are running business in a sane way where we are not losing money and we are doing things in a possible way, eventually we will win. It might take 3 years, it might take 5 years. Eventually, I'm not in any hurry. We are not in any hurry. Our job is that just to support our customers with great customer support. Other than that, of course, as a SaaS business, you want to see your your ARR growing by on average by 40%. So the rule of 40 is what I follow. Can we have 40% growth and 40% profit margins? Just like that's the thing that we typically try to achieve.
Nice. And I'm curious because you mentioned, like the reviews, typically like Google, G2, etc. So is that something you're trying to push or, incentivize your customers to give you reviews? Or what's your strategy behind this?
Yeah, we have never incentivized any customer to post a review about us. These customers in most cases are coming through word of mouth and referral, right? And when we build relationship with them, they realize that what will help vFairs grow is a positive word of mouth through them. It can be online, it can be in any of their conversations with other similar customers. But it's not that we pay them $25 or $50 gift cards to post anything about us. Like we have never done that. But yeah, I think when you have great relationship with your customer, they would ask how can I help you, and we just tell them that the reason that you know about vFairs is because someone else told you about vFairs, and we would appreciate if you can just tell other companies about vFairs as well, and that's what would encourage them to go ahead and either post it online or just tell in a casual conversation with other similar customers.
Awesome. And do you have like an automated process from, let's say, like you are getting like the NPS, and then if someone says like I would highly recommend vFairs, to have like something automatic that would triggers like I don't know, like a G2 crowd page link or something like that?
Sure. Yeah. So we have that. So basically, once our contract with the customer is about to be finished, or once the event is about to be finished for that particular event, we do tell them that, by the way, please fill up this form, give us your review. Again, this is more like an internal Google Doc form where they go ahead and they mention things about vFairs, everything from a technology perspective, both front end and back end, to how well their account manager was, how well their project manager was, and so forth. And that does trigger internal emails as well as emails that will encourage them to go ahead and post review. So that part of the entire customer lifecycle is pretty much automated. That helps fuel the entire company that growth of the company.
And what tool do you use like to get the NPS?
Sorry, what?
What tool do you use?
So I honestly forgot the name of the tool itself, but again, one of those widgets that you can just purchase online and just go ahead and yeah.
Nice. And I was curious to understand a little bit more. Like you have a lot of mid-market and enterprise clients. Going back to 2016, how exactly do you decide to go and talk to these customers first? Was it part of your network, or was it just like a choice you decided from the start to go and go at bigger clients?
No, great question. So see, just before 2016, I have had built this software because I wanted to run events myself, right? So I was an event organizer before 2016, and when I looked around, either sometimes I just didn't like the software that were out there. Even if I did like the software, I was not happy with the customer support that they were providing, right? And in order for me to run really great events that I can imagine, I just wanted to build it and run it, again, you'll face a lot of just hesitation from the vendors that, oh, by the way, we don't have this feature. This feature will come next year. And I just didn't have that kind of patience to, again, wait for a certain feature that I feel was really important for my event, again, to be built, right? So, that's why we built the software. For me, it was not that I had initially planned that I will launch vFairs. It was more about, let me just build the software myself to run events offline on. And I ran almost 100 plus events, right? So for years, from 2010 till 2016, I was the event organizer and I was just using my own software, right? Even at that time, when there was no vFairs and I was not even selling the software as a service, people would come to me, companies would come to me, governments would come and reach out to me, and they would say that, can I use your software to run our event, right?
Nice.
And again, I would give it to them. I would sometimes, of course, sell them as a service or help them out, if they need it be. And then I think by 2016, I was just confident that, okay, the software I have built is something that is that can be a market leader, in the short term. And that's when we launched vFairs out there. And honestly speaking, I was not trying to really promote it as a business. I just launched vFairs and ran some SEO work and SEM campaigns. And I was just pretty lucky that one of my initial customers who did knock on our doors was a Fortune 500 company, the leader in the FMCG industry. So they reached out to us. They said, we like your website. We like your features. We would like to try out your software. So we served them, again, not just with great technology, but with great customer support. And rest is history. That one customer then told 10 other customers that how great the product was and then how amazing the customer support was. And that till now, to date, has helped us grow the business where we are today.
No, that's really cool. And the first clients essentially were part of your networks in the early days. And did it just spread through word of mouth, or did you have to use like other strategy to acquire customers?
It was word of mouth primarily, and then the second strategy that we did use was again SEM and SEO. We didn't hire the sales team at all at that point. It was all about, okay, let us just help this customer. This customer will then go ahead and tell 10, 15 other customers. The word of mouth spread pretty rapidly, and then just naturally any traffic that we were getting. See, back in 2016. If you would be searching for a virtual event platform or a virtual job fair solution or virtual trade fair solution, you'll find maximum 10 other vendors, right? Right now, of course, because of COVID, there are 100 plus other vendors, but you'll always appear in most cases among the the top 10 search results, right? And again, those forward-looking organizations who started doing virtual events at that time will either go ahead and check out all of them, right? Because it didn't take much time to really see who are the top 3, 4, 5 players. And then, at that point, whoever is your ideal customer profile will eventually sign up with you. But I would say 50% to 70% of the business was mainly word of mouth, and then the 30 to 40% was through our just online marketing initiatives.
Nice. That's really cool. And something you mentioned as, like almost your first words in the podcast was our customer service is really like our competitive advantage. And we want, like to even be seen as like a hospitality company, even though we are like a tech platform. So I'm curious, like regarding your team structure, how many people do you have in support? How do you organize like your support team? Do you have like a intercom chat or like live chat that you can use directly? How exactly is the whole setup?
Yeah, and as I answer, I just want, I think, the audience to know that, I'm just going to reiterate what I said. Unlike any other typical software business, and I have managed a lot of other software business as well. I have managed ATS platform. I, of course, work on a CRM and other. Again, I just want to reiterate, events is a very serious business. Events is a serious business because unlike a typical software whose usage is the same throughout the year, based on, event is very critical for the event live day, because you're going to work for weeks, months for that 1, 2, 3 days of the event, right? And that's why for us, we know that our customer support just cannot be mediocre or average leading up to the event. And then, of course, on the day of the event, it has to be top-notch to begin with, right? Again, I typically, as I mentioned, I say it's like your wedding day. It cannot go wrong. And you want to make sure that people who are running the event with you, they enjoy their journey rather than stressed throughout the process, right? So given that in mind, 60% of our company is what we call post-sales. They're working in one form or another in customer support, right? And we do have pretty much all types of customer support teams available. So we have the live chat support so that any one of our customers or their attendees or their speakers or their exhibitors, if they need at any point any help, at any point, 365 days a year, 24/7, they can get live chat support, because we want to make sure that their one day that's about to come is a happy day, right? And then for our customers, which are direct customers, the event organizers, other than live chat, they have the ability to email on a very specific email address that is typically created for that particular customer. They have named account management team and the customer success team that they can also email and call, right? So we have live chat, we have email-based support, and we have named account managers for all of our customers that they can call, WhatsApp, whatever they wish. So yeah, this is the part where we just don't understaff. We at any point are 20% overstaffed in our customer support, because for us, as I mentioned, I don't like, in the bigger scheme of things, if my customers are happy, everything else is secondary, and that's the part we don't make any compromise on.
And apart from the NPS, I have two questions. First one is how exactly do you track the success of your customer support team? Is it really like NPS, or is it the number of tickets? Is it like the how fast do they answer, etc., etc.?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, it's an NPS, right? Because in the end, you're asking them. We do ask them a lot of questions, but in the end, it's really about two things, right? How would you rate vFairs as a business, and would you recommend vFairs to someone else, right? In the at the crux is these two things. Now, the nature of our business is not that one can resolve a ticket sometimes in 2 minutes or 5 minutes. It really depends on the nature of the request, right? That some things will be resolved in less than a minute, others might take sometimes days, because it's a request that we are trying to serve as a customer request, right? But it's typically NPS. But then leading up to NPS, and there are a lot of other metrics, right? Like, what's the satisfaction rate of the chat conversations we are having, and what's the typical ticket resolution time? All of those are more of leading metrics, but the end metric that we typically really judge ourselves internally is that what is our typical NPS.
And whenever you were mentioning, we have always 20% overstaff on the support team. So how exactly do you decide when to hire for support? Is this do you have a rule of thumb where a number of clients equal number of support team, or how exactly does it work?
Yeah, it's a rule of thumb. So it's basically the number of customers. We know that what is the ratio that we typically need to serve a customer with, and our customer support staff. So it's purely based on that. It's purely based on the number of active customers that we will have, and based on that, we will have the number of customer support staff. And again, as I mentioned, the reason that we usually have a bit extra bandwidth in our customer support staff is that we do get throughout the year 2, 3, 4 months where you'll get influx of customers, because event business is such that there are some slow months and then there are some very busy months. And you want to make sure that at least for those peak months, we still have the same kind of customer support that we will have throughout the year, right? So again, 10 to 15% our staff will have other projects. It's not that they're sitting idle; they are working on some other creative initiatives that we do internally. But then we're also ready for those peak months that we get 3 to 4 times in a year.
So in total, how many people in your company would you say are related to support out of the 257?
Yeah, so we have also tech people who are part of support team, right? Because but roughly close to 100. So I think out of the 267, close to 100 people are in one form or another. They are in that particular category. Yeah.
Nice. That's really cool. And I haven't seen a lot of companies doing it, but in the end, it makes a lot of sense. I was trying to understand and see, we were discussing that you have both enterprise and also mid-market clients. The average deal value that you gave me was 15 for mid-market and 20 something for enterprise. So not such a huge difference. So I'm curious to dig in a little bit more into like the type of sales cycle that you have. Do you feel that there is a difference between the two? And if yes, can you walk us through maybe like the different points that you see throughout the sales cycle?
Yeah. See, there's not a huge difference up until now, and I will tell you why. And eventually, this will change as the market is going to go back to its equilibrium stage, right? But just I'm just going to kind of let the audience rewind 2 years back. Like over the last 2 years, what's happening is that customers are reaching out because they were planning to do their in-person events, and now they have to suddenly shift to virtual or hybrid events, right? So all of our customers in most cases are reaching out to us. So that's why our typical sales journey to acquire an enterprise or mid-market is not very different up until now, right? Because all of these customers are reaching out to us to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the time they reach out to us, they already have an event in mind, they already have a date in mind, they already have a problem that needs to be solved, right? Versus when you're starting from scratch, you're trying to create, again, urgency for a customer that may not have an immediate need to try out a virtual event solution, right? And that's why typically the average sales cycle with a mid-market will be 30 to 45 days. With an enterprise, it's going to be 60 to 90 days, just because each one of them start that early, right? An enterprise customer is planning to do event at least with a 3-month lead time, because they have to market a lot, they have to sell a lot, and so forth. There are still some customers who sometimes start a year early or 6 months early, because they're just huge customers. They have very big procurement cycle, but I'm giving you typically the average, right? Typical average for mid-market 30 to 60 days, and then for enterprise 60 to 90 days. And the reason they're both pretty much close to each other is that they have all been inbound to begin with at this point. Now, again, with both enterprise and with both mid-market, there are huge ranges. Of course, when I say 15,000, 20,000, that's the average. But with enterprise, we have had customers who will, again, pay us less, but sometimes pay us in 6 digits also, because that's the kind of event that they are running. But by and large, we help companies run events of all types. Sometimes it's a very, very small event where it's a sales kickoff meeting with only 50 people, and that's why they will pay us really less. But sometimes then they are running events where big celebrities like Michelle Obama or Meghan Markle are part of the keynote. 100,000 people are attending those events, and there are ticket sales and so forth. So you'll have typically high price point as well. But when you end up having 1,000, 2,000 customers, the average pretty much comes out to be the numbers that I gave you.
That's really interesting. And I'm curious because as you mentioned, events are not always throughout the year. Sometimes, like people would prepare for like 6 months to do one event, like that one big event. How exactly are you managing churn? Because, people are not always willing to use the product, all year long.
Absolutely. See, I think for us, the way we just measure churn is that, again, our typical licenses for 12 months, you are allowed to run X number of credits for events. You might have 1 credit, 2 credit, 3 credit. And again, you might be a customer who is just going to do a sales kickoff once a year, right? Now, I gave you a license, 12 months, you can run 1 sales kickoff meeting. Now, you will come back again the next year, same time, to run the next sales kickoff. If you would run it, again, you haven't churned, but if you won't run it, then you have churned as a customer, right? The idea is that we want our customers to see value in running events. And if they see that overall they did find value of using a platform to run any event, right, whether it's virtual or in-person or hybrid, right, they will continue to keep on using this platform for years to come. Again, as I mentioned, even before COVID, we were growing 50% to 100% year on year. It's just that at that point, you have to be a forward-looking organization to even think about it. Now, every company knows that something like this exists, and it's for them to decide whether they want to use an online event platform or a hybrid event platform, in-person event platform. But typically, like in our industry, that's how you'll measure churn. You just see that whether the next year the customer is running the same kind of event or not.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And I'm curious, like you mentioned that COVID gave you like a huge boost in terms of growth. So before like March 2020, 2 years ago, 2 years and some months ago, let's say, what was your annual recurring revenue at the time?
It was around $2 million. So, and we were expecting that we'll go from $2 million to $3 million. So what happened is, of course, rather than going from $2 to $3 million over the next 2 years, we end up being at around $30 million.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty nice surprise. And early on, you mentioned that your goal was to potentially do an IPO within the next 5 years. How exactly do you plan to get there? Like, what's the next step and strategy?
Yeah, see, for us, the strategy just pretty much remains the same. And we typically say that internally, it's like the strategy that McDonald's follow, which was again just make sure that you delight your customers. In the bigger scheme of things, if need be, we can go ahead and do an IPO even right now. There are many companies who have done an IPO who don't make money, who are losing money, who don't have any profits. So our numbers are there. It's just that you want to do an IPO when you have reached your equilibrium after the pandemic. You have settled down of finding out that okay, the pendulum went from this to this, and where exactly it's going to come, so that you can start showing growth and you can start predicting a lot more accurately how your next 3, 6, 9, 12 months are going to come, so that that the shareholders of the company, or who's ever going to invest in the company, can see that predictability in our growth. So the next just 3 to 5 years is to stabilize our growth, hire the management team, and then build extra sources, extra channels of revenue, right? So again, by and large, our business still runs on word of mouth. So again, as I mentioned, we primarily care up until now only about our post sales, the customer support, the kind of service we are giving to the customers. The idea is to hire an outbound team, have channel partners, grow in few other territories other than North America and Europe, where we are very strong at. Get into APAC, get into India, get into a lot of other countries. And once you have all of those building blocks that just form the foundation of a much more stable company that can have predictable growth, I think that's when we will go ahead with an IPO.
And right now, your team is fully remote?
We have always been a remote first company, and
Okay.
even before COVID, like our employees used to tell their families or their friends that we are quarantined for the last 6 years. So we know how to run a remote company. That's how the entire company was built from day one. And we do have offices in certain countries where we have a sizable number of employees, because some of those employees like to go and work from an office space. But by and large, it's a remote first company with few offices across the globe, just purely based on the demand of those employees in those particular countries. Yeah.
And how exactly do you manage like a remote company of that size? Like, what would be for you like the biggest challenges to keep like the team united behind the vision, getting like the same motivation and keep growing?
Yeah. See, I think for us, and I know it has become cliche with time, but it's really the culture that matters the most. And the reason I say that it's more true for us than for any other company who says that is that, see, for us, because our only focus at this point or leading up to this point has been that we have to have really happy customers. You cannot have happy customers unless you have extremely happy employees. You cannot serve your customers, you cannot help the customers unless you build a culture where the company employees help themselves or each other, as and when that's required, regardless of the department, regardless of the location, and so forth, right? So for us, maintaining that culture where we are out there to help each other as and when needed. So our Slack is pretty active 24/7. You go ahead and post a question in any of the groups, and you will see people from all different locations and different departments helping out that particular person. And the way we do that is that we have just built certain best practices internally. Things like having a daily huddle or a weekly town hall, a monthly, just KPI review.
Can you expand on that a little bit, like the three?
Yeah. So basically, again, every manager typically run a daily huddle, and the idea of the daily huddle is just to have that catch up with the team and be able to see each other and ask them how well they are doing and so forth. So for us, that is pretty much mandatory as a best practice within our company, that we will have a daily huddle in each and every team. We have weekly town halls where, again, it's an all hands just employee town hall where I go out there. People can ask me any questions, there to answer everything from the business to the external market, to internal projects and the progress of that. And then we have bi-monthly, again, town halls where managers and different employees and leader of the projects would come and present just the performance of those things. And then we try to meet once a quarter also, in different offices, so that we still get to meet each other in person. And then managers and employees themselves, they have their own monthly meetups. They again they're free to kind of initiate on their own and meet as many times as they would want, whether virtual, having unwind sessions, or in person, having just a dinner or lunch. But the daily huddle, the weekly all hands meeting, the bi-monthly town hall, and then once a quarter meetup with the management in person. These are just few of the best practices that we have learned over the years.
No, that's really cool. And I'm curious, like I have two questions. First one is the daily huddle that you are doing. How many people usually are in the team when they do that, and how long does it usually last?
Sure. See, the daily huddle is typically 7 to 8 people. So typically a manager should have 6 to 7 reportees at max. Some of them have less, some of them have a little bit more, but I think you can say at max 9 to 10 people. The idea is to really have a chance to be able to give an update of what's happening in your life. If you need any help, are there any roadblocks and so forth, and get a small update of where they need help to help them progress with the rest of the week, right? On speaking, typically the time duration of these huddles is blocked for 30 minutes, but most of the hurdles happen in 10 minutes or less, right? Because the idea is not to waste those 30 minutes of any of the employees. It's really about if there is a certain topic that needs to be discussed for long, then you will take those entire 30 minutes. But otherwise, it's really about catching up with the people. We all want to see each other, hear each other, ask for help, and that's just again, just that builds as a habit that you will get to be able to talk to your manager and other employees within your department at least once a day for 5 to 10 minutes. If you have any questions for them, you can solve it as a group.
And the weekly town hall, how exactly do you set that up? Because I'm assuming, but maybe that's not the case, that with a company with 267 people, being 260 people on Zoom, asking questions, is that something that people do, or do people get a bit scared, with the new employees and everything? How do you make these questions happen?
Yeah, see, it's natural for a new employee sometimes to feel shy initially, but I think what happens just with time is that they would see that others are asking questions, and these questions are asked, in many cases by everyone from an intern to the rest of the management, right? And there will be questions of all times. These questions of all type, right? These can be fun questions, these can be jokes, but these can be really serious questions that typically anyone would face a bit of hesitation to ask to the CEO. But once everyone see that any question can be asked to anyone, right? Because a question, and again, it's not that, and any feedback also can be given, right? And again, as far as the feedback goes, again, both ways, bi-directional, where sometimes the feedback is genuine, you take it and you go ahead and explain that, and sometimes there are sometimes just miscommunications that you want to make sure that you give the bigger picture of where the company wants to go and how they feel that they want to achieve, and what everyone's contribution is to help us achieve that goal. But yeah, again, see, when you build a culture where there is no fear of asking question to anyone, eventually, and by eventually I mean typically in 2 to 4 weeks, any new joiner just feel very confident they can ask question to anyone, in any forum, right? And you don't face that a lot. You only face that with some of the just new employees in the first couple of weeks, but after that, they all get to the habit.
And the town hall is just questions to you, or is it questions to the entire management team? And
yeah, questions. The questions can be asked to anyone. Again, there are rest of the management team as well. Of course, my job is just to be there to make sure that at least I answer that question, or then anyone else, if that question asks them, they're able to support that. But typically, town hall is led by me, and again, some of the other management team members as well. Typically, there's a small agenda that okay, let us discover this as a topic for, again, a 10-15 minutes discussion that, by the way, this is where the company is going this quarter, and this is what we have achieved in the last 1 week. But then the forum is open for everyone to really ask any type of questions. Town halls, these all hand meetings are very engaging. Typically, again, they're not meant to consume the entire 1 hour, but more often than not, they always consume 1 hour because there are always questions, or worst case scenario, it's just a way for everyone to catch up and get to see the bigger team, not just their immediate team that they get to see in daily huddles.
Nice. And it's been almost 6 years since you started the company as a bootstrapper. So in this podcast, I also love to share, like the tough times. What has been for you, one of the toughest time you faced, or the biggest challenge you faced building such a big team in a short amount of time?
Yeah, I won't call it tough time. I will still call it a blessing. But the tough time was when the pandemic came. And when the pandemic came, the challenge for us was that, see, wherever we are, we could have doubled or tripled our revenue. It's just that we have always been the company who wanted to get customers that we can serve really well, right? So during those 1.5 years, we had to say no to a lot of customers, and that's always very painful because you know that the money is on the table. All you have to do is just pick up. But if we feel that that client is not the right fit, or we are not the right fit for that particular customer, that was a challenge. And again, the moment you say yes, of course, we have our own just discipline that what we have to serve that customer, and just achieving that was very hard, because overnight you have not just 100 customers that you are serving, now you have 1,000 customers. So it was a lot of hard work. We didn't sleep for more than 4 hours for more than 6 months,
Wow.
because that's how much demand was there. And then again, it was 7 working days. And again, I think the challenge was less for me. It's just that, for employees who are out there committed to serve these customers, but sometimes you just feel that, they're sick, but they're still working. So, you feel bad about a lot of that. But again, I think we are where we are because of our employees, because at that time, regardless of some of the person's situation, someone has COVID, someone is not feeling well, someone has death in the family, but just their commitment to, again, help achieve what we have achieved was just, again, it was tough time, but at the same time, extremely rewarding for the company, tough as an individual though.
And you mentioned that one of your goal was the IPO, and also that the success, obviously, like in any company, is mainly due to the people you hire. So do you have an incentive, like strategy, so giving stock options or this type of things to employees, or are you more on the MailChimp side, for example, which is paying good salaries and potential bonuses?
See, we as of now, it's primarily us paying, more above market rate salaries to all of our employees. Having said that, see, we have never brought in an investor yet. As and when we will bring in an investor, the idea is to create stock options for
Okay.
at this point. Yeah, it's just a very straightforward, cap table that we have, and we want to stick to that. The idea is still to reward those employees as and when we get to that point.
Nice, really interesting. I want to wrap up the episode usually with 3 fire question. First one being, what's your favorite book or podcast?
My favorite book is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. That has been one of my just very inspirational books that I have read a long time back.
Nice. Favorite Bootstrap founder and why?
See, I'm a big fan of MailChimp, and what Ben Chestnut achieved with MailChimp. Bootstrapping the company from literally $0 all the way to I don't know, $700 million or something. Yeah.
No, that's huge. Crazy story. And your favorite thing to do to regain energy or motivation during tough times?
See, I think for me, I'm a very hands-on manager. So see, anytime you doubt anything in life, right? What you're trying to achieve as an employee of a company, or as someone who's running the company as a CEO. I talk to employees, so there are 200 of them, and once a year I will get a chance to literally talk to all of them. If and then you get to talk to customers. The moment you talk to employees, talk to customers, they will tell you of what you have built as a company, and how much their personal life have improved, or their work lives have improved because of your product. And again, as soon as I have these conversations, again, that just re-energizes me as a human, right? Of all the hard work that we have been doing for the past 6 years, and just makes you commit to the next decade of hard work as well.
Awesome. Love it. Where can people find you, follow you, and follow your journey? Awesome. Well, Younas, thanks a lot for joining us on the podcast, and have an awesome day.
Thanks, Chief, for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Bootstrap Stories, the only podcast where bootstrap entrepreneurs share their journey in all transparency. If you enjoyed this episode, don't hesitate to leave us a review. And in case you want to see the interview, all episodes are live on the YouTube channel. Check out the link in the description and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Have an amazing day, and make sure to also join us in our amazing Bootstrap community where we all helped each other to become successful and grow a profitable business. Take care and talk to you soon.